Elias Vance lived a life governed by precision, not aesthetics. As a 20-year veteran working in logistics and regulatory compliance for the U.S. Postal Service, USPS, he knew that true order lay not in decorative fluff, but in adherence to codified standards. His home in the pristine yet perpetually policed community of Emerald Pines was his solace until the arrival of the new HOA President, Howard Sterling. Sterling was a retired civil engineer who viewed community governance not as volunteer work, but as a final, glorious construction project. He saw flaws everywhere, from the gradient of the cul-de-sac to the very placement of the lawn gnomes. His obsession was curb appeal, and his focus quickly narrowed on the mailbox line. Sterling decreed that all mailboxes must be installed at a height of precisely 44 inches from the pavement to the floor of the box, citing optimal visual continuity as the justification. This specific height was codified in a new, hyper-detailed bylaw Sterling pushed through the board. The federal standard, known to Elias and every USPS carrier across the nation, dictates a height range between 41 and 45 inches. Elias's mailbox, installed perfectly by the previous owner, rested at 42.5 inches smack in the middle of the federal standard, but now a fatal 1.5 inches too low for Sterling's tyrannical vision. The violation notice arrived in Elias's mailbox ironically on a crisp morning. It was printed on heavy cream-colored stock bearing the HOA seal and Sterling's signature. Violation Notice Number 203, Non-Compliant Fixture Height. The notice demanded immediate correction within 7 days and threatened an escalating series of fines starting at $150. Elias didn't feel anger. He felt the cold, analytical certainty of a professional who recognizes a fundamental and catastrophic legal error. Sterling, the retired engineer, had just attempted to legislate against the United States government, and Elias, the USPS regulatory specialist, was about to teach him a lesson in jurisdictional supremacy. Elias walked straight past his phone and into his home office, which contained not golf clubs or fishing gear, but volumes of the U.S. Code and the Code of Federal Regulations, CFR. He didn't need to look up the relevant statute. He knew it by heart. Title 39, the Postal Service Act, and specifically 39 CFR Section 111.3d, which governs mail receptacle standards. Crucially, he focused on the Postmaster General's standards for equipment compatibility and carrier safety regulations that explicitly supersede any state or local ordinance that obstructs or impedes mail delivery. His retaliation had to be meticulously constructed, leaving zero room for the HOA's general counsel to argue. It couldn't be a simple letter. It had to be a professionally certified declaration of conflict. First, Elias hired a licensed land surveyor, Mark Reynolds, not to measure the mailbox, but to perform a certified elevation survey of the curb, the street grade, and the precise height of the base of his mailbox from the public street level. This cost him $800, but the result was a document stamped, sealed, and legally unimpeachable, proving his mailbox sat exactly at the federally compliant 42.5 inches. This preemptively neutralized any future claim by the HOA that the measurement itself was wrong. Second, Elias did not contact Sterling. Instead, he made an official visit to the district postmaster, a formidable woman named Ms. Alvarez, explaining the situation not as a neighborhood spat, but as a direct obstruction of federal service. He explained that forcing a standardized height of 44 inches might sound neat, but it could violate OSHA safety regulations for the carriers operating out of high-wheel delivery vehicles, forcing them to overextend their reach multiple times daily. He also pointed out that the HOA's new rule, by eliminating the lower end of the 41 to 45 inch federal range, was creating an unnecessary legal risk for the USPS itself. Ms. Alvarez was initially skeptical, but when Elias showed her the HOA bylaw and the certified surveyor's report, her demeanor changed from bureaucratic fatigue to steely resolve. She saw the liability. They drafted a formal, official letter on U.S. Postal Service letterhead, citing Title 39 and the specific CFR sections, explicitly stating that the HOS local bylaw was preempted and void because it obstructed the safe and compliant delivery of mail. The letter concluded with a non-negotiable demand for the immediate cessation of all fines and enforcement of the height rule. The delivery of the response was a masterpiece of controlled escalation. Elias didn't mail the documents. He hand-delivered a sealed, certified package to the HOA's registered agent, ensuring a binding legal paper trail. Inside the package were 3 crucial documents designed to dismantle the HOA's case. The first was the certified survey, the $800 document proving his mailbox was legally situated at 42.5 inches. The second was the USPS order, the formal letter signed by Postmaster Alvarez, which wasn't a warning but a direct threat of federal interference. It stated clearly that if the HOA attempted to levy a fine or demand modification to a federally compliant structure, the USPS would consider the action an obstruction of mail delivery, potentially leading to a criminal investigation and the suspension of mail delivery to the entire community of Emerald Pines. The final document was the invoice, an invoice from Elias to the HOA for the full $800 cost of the certified elevation survey, citing the HOA's illegal and unsupported violation notice as the direct cause for the necessary mitigation expense. The letter landed on Howard Sterling's desk like a tactical nuclear device. Sterling, the retired engineer who prided himself on precise rules, was not just wrong. He had committed a jurisdictional felony. He tried to dismiss it, claiming it was boilerplate, but the HOA's General Counsel, reading the phrase suspension of mail delivery and the citation of 39 U.S.C. Section 1701, obstruction of mails, immediately shut down the confrontation. The counsel explained in stark terms that no HOA bylaw, no matter how precise or aesthetically motivated, could override the federal government's authority to deliver mail. Sterling's 44-inch rule was instantly nullified. The emergency board meeting that followed was a public, agonizing humiliation for Howard Sterling. The board was forced to vote to rescind the ultra-specific 44-inch bylaw and apologize publicly. Furthermore, they had to approve payment of Elias's $800 invoice for the survey, effectively funding the instrument of their own defeat. Elias Vance, who never raised his voice or engaged in petty arguments, had used the cold, immutable power of federal regulation and his professional expertise to dismantle the HOA President's single-minded obsession. Sterling's legacy as the design czar ended not with a blueprint, but with a devastating, federally enforced retreat. Elias's mailbox remained at 42.5 inches, a permanent, perfectly positioned monument to the supremacy of the U.S. Postal Service.